of our national anthem, representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, are lit.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Happy Devils Sunday. Did you hear the buzz?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, crackling. Like you were talking through Rice Krispies.
Oh.
Yeah, your snap, crackle, and pop right now.
Oh, really? Well, too bad. You know what? Too bad. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast. You guys want to take over? Is my audio bad?
No, you
Yeah.
sound like a cool transformer, actually. Continue on in this like Optimus Prime voice that you have happening.
Careful.
Was that your Optimus impersonation? That was terrible, Samu. Terrible.
Well, same with the Devils. You know what? We made it through the season. Now, black off.
Segway of gold. Segway of gold. They don't call him Sam
What?
Segway of gold woo for nothing, ladies and gentlemen. That's right.
What a transition, man. What a transition.
What a transition.
I think it is appropriate that you sound that way, and it kind of just fits the ending of the wonderful season that the New Jersey Devils had. Nick brought up a point that really made it really come, hit you right in the heart.
Let's say hello to everybody. I'm
Oh,
Scotty.
yeah.
What's your
Oh,
name?
yeah.
All right. We got a special guest
My
today.
name-
It's not usually on.
My name's Carl.
Carl.
We have the
Carl.
wonderful flowing locks of
If the
Nick
man
Villano.
wanted grape soda, Carl.
I figured if I'm going to be on the show with Scotty, I better bring my metal hair out, like in full.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you
blast.
go.
That's
I
right.
had to bring it up to
The old
11.
long hairs. Yes.
Also, I got the Nico Heischer shirt from Backhanded Devil
Oh.
on because I'm Team Nico
very
today.
nice.
I won't go too
Very,
much
very
into
nice.
it because we'll probably talk about it, but I am Team Nico today, and I'll let it live on
Okay.
that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. And Scott, nice reference to the state for those that don't know
I
what.
try.
If the man wants a grape soda, you get the man a grape soda. What are you doing, Carl? Anyway,
Carl. Chicken
gentlemen,
sandwich, Carl.
the man said a chicken sandwich, Carl. So you can see
Oh,
we've already
God.
gone off the rails real quick, Nick. That's what happens when New Jersey Devils bring us to this point. As I was saying before, Scotty made sure that I mentioned everybody that's here. The point that you brought up is that the Devils were out of contention or out of any sort of reality in the month of December, and I didn't really you don't really think about that when you're in that moment, but it is true that this team was going nowhere fast, and I think our expectations need to be tempered, but they have to be better than what they're showing, because this has been year after year of ineptitude. And Larry Brooks wrote this beautiful article in New York Post about how the ownership needs to go in a Buck Showalter type of way, and I know we've talked about it many times, but I think it is time we talk about the fate of the leadership of this team, of the coaching staff of this team, and kind of get and pick your brain. You say you're Team Nico. Now, why in the world would you say you're Team Nico today?
So, well, let me say this. When you say go in a Buck Showalter kind of way, wasn't Lindy Ruff going in a Buck Showalter kind of way? Lindy Ruff has the 5th most wins in NHL history. You're going with the old guard. So I feel like we already did the Buck Showalter way, and it went the way of the goose. It went the way of the dodo bird. It should be extinct. We should not be doing
the way
this
of the goose
anymore. Yeah, it went the way of the goose. There you go. I think Lindy Ruff did his job, but I think his job had an expiration date. Lindy Ruff doesn't win NHL games in today's NHL. He develops players. I saw a fan tell me that you should make him the head of NHL player development. Great. Love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one thing the Devils do is that when they have a coach that's not in a position that's right for them, they put them in a different position. They did it with Mark Dennehy last year. They brought in Kevin Dineen. Now look at what the AHL team's doing. I think they could do the same thing with Lindy Ruff. I said when they hired Lindy Ruff, because there was all those rumors around Ricard Gronberg out of Europe that the Devils were looking to get him, but he had all these contract issues that made it a lot harder to bring him over to the NHL. So I was like, what better than to get a development guy and Lindy Ruff to come here for 2 years, and then maybe you have a handshake agreement with Lindy Ruff that, like, maybe you'll go take a step back. He was already an assistant coach. He wasn't really in the running for any other head coaching jobs when we hired him. It looked like he was going to go back to the Rangers. So it kind of made sense in my head, at least. And I asked around about it. Not a lot of people thought that was what was going on. So I kind of stepped away from it. But I still think that that's something that would have made sense. Now we're looking at it, and we're going to hear from Lindy Ruff tomorrow. Away from everyone else. There's a couple players that still have to talk, but can you think of anyone significant who hasn't talked? I guess Siegenthaler hasn't talked. But the leadership group is Dougie, Damon Severson, PK Subban, Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes. Those all they spoke. I guess Bratt hasn't spoken. So, I guess he's the big one that hasn't spoken. But, you think about who's left to speak, it's really just Bratt and Lindy Ruff, who I'm looking forward to hearing to. No, actually, I think Siegenthaler did talk today. Sorry, there was just a lot that happened today. Because something came out about him going to Worlds. But anyway, I think that you look at the situation, and I think that you do need – and I think it comes down to who's out there. And there are a lot of interesting names out there, and it depends on a lot what happens. Because I think Peter DeBoer, if he gets fired – I don't think he's a good fit for here, but I think he's going to take a head coaching job, which is going to take competition away from us since we're not going to hire Peter DeBoer. He's not going to want to come here. Bruce Boudreau is an interesting name that I would actually love to have here, seeing what he did to turn around the Vancouver Canucks, because his contract states that he can just leave if they can't come to an agreement. And I think that he would come here and he would do something similar to what Gallant did to the Rangers, kind of give them a structure, give them a purpose, and change the philosophy and change the point of what the Devils are doing. And I love Lindy Ruff as a guy. I think that he's really good at certain specific things that he does. He's elite at development, but day-to-day decision-making, he leaves a lot to be desired. He's the winningest coach in the history of the league to not win a Stanley Cup. And I do believe there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Especially, Lindy, like like you said, having him maybe take a different role where you don't have to, fire him and make it into a situation where it's like, all right, well, Jack loves the guy and you don't want to get rid of him because Jack thinks very highly of him and Jack is now one of your core pieces to this team and you don't want to make him upset, right? So maybe you move him into that player development situation or role, which would suit him fine. And I think that would be a great role for him to do, going forward. You brought up an interesting name. There was something that I saw recently that might make him available to coach. But if you had your pick of like maybe 3 guys that you wish you could bring in here, who do you think would be in that top 3 to replace Lindy Ruff if he were to be let go?
I mean, right this second. So first thing I'll say is I'm staring at the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if they lose in the first round again and Sheldon Keefe gets fired, I am backing a Brinks truck up to his house to get him here. I think that he's the perfect coach to put us in the position, and I don't care what he's done in his first round exits. Definitely not his fault entirely. Yeah, maybe he's made some mistakes, but he's definitely not the catalyst for why they've lost in the first round. And if you haven't noticed, we haven't gotten to the first round in a long time, so I'll take him here every day of the week. But let's say he doesn't get fired, because I said the same thing about John Cooper a couple years ago, and then they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So, I would love Bruce Boudreau. Gronberg is a name I would love. I don't know his availability. And another name that I'm really paying attention to, but it comes with a caveat that I think that people need to know at least somewhat what happened, is Jim Montgomery. There's so many rumors about what happened with Jim Montgomery in Dallas, and he hasn't taken a job since. And there's been a couple puff pieces, which, we learned with the Chicago Blackhawks situation doesn't necessarily mean that he's done nothing wrong. But if you could come out and say that what he did was maybe he got, maybe he did something stupid at a work event and embarrassed himself and the company, but didn't, there's a line. There's a clear and utter line that you can't cross where you change. It changes. I don't need to really get into it. I think we all know, where that line is. If he hasn't crossed that line, he just was maybe embarrassing, and he's, rehabbed himself and rehabbed his image, then he's somebody that I'm definitely considering. Can I tell you one person I'm not considering, and I'd be really actually mad if they hired, is Joel Quenneville.
Can I? Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. I didn't.
No, I was gonna. I thought you were going to say somebody else completely. So that's go on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's the rumors that Joel Quenneville is putting out the feelers again and he wants to coach again. Good for you, buddy. I don't care. Get the hell out of my life. I don't want anything to do with you. The things he did in Chicago were disgusting. The things that when you do that much of a cover up, you're basically saying that the hockey team is more important than a person's life. And I don't want anybody like that in my life. I don't care if you're the best coach in the history of the world. I legit have no interest in bringing him to New Jersey and letting him rehab his image here. Let him do that in Vegas or wherever the hell else he's going to do it. So those are the names that I'm thinking. Obviously, things might change if there's some surprise firings. There's a couple candidates. And Rick Tockett's an interesting name that I think would probably upset most Devils fans. But as far as like the Lindy Ruff option of coming out of nowhere,
I would take
really
him.
That exciting.
I would totally take
Rick
Tocchet. I would totally take Rick Tocchet. Am I still popping?
You're
no,
better.
you're good.
Oh, I fixed it. Oh, I did something right. My wife gave me these Scooby snacks for my trip. So I'm going to have a Scooby snack.
Did you take them and it fixed your audio? Is that what happened? Is it like
That's
Popeye's
exactly
like everything
what
gets
happened.
fixed?
That's exactly what happened. I'm incentivized to fix stuff when I have Scooby snacks. Maybe we should feed these to the New Jersey Devils. I wanted. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to say something.
The Devils
about
need the
your-
Popeye spinach.
So I wanted to just if you don't mind me interrupting, because you were talking about Lindy Ruff being the development coach, I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to, pop and sound awful. You know what the Devils remind me of? Their process. It almost seems like Joshua Harris and David Blitzer are the parents, and they're just like that. They're kids that have never graduated, and they're still in the basement. Like they're always constantly developing. They're a professional student of just developing, but there's like no end game to it. You know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about Van Wilder, like the movie Van Wilder.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That
I still can't eat Boston
that
cream
Ryan
pies,
Reynolds.
Yeah. Since that movie, I still can't go to Dunkin' Donuts and even order that anymore.
What about you, Scotty? What about you there? What are your thoughts of should he stay or should he go?
Oh, man. I mean, I know I said it plenty of times in Devils After Dark. Around New Year's, I thought the whole staff should have been canned and let go. And recently, the fact that they had healthy scratch Nikita Ahoytuk and had Ty Smith in there and playing him nearly 20 minutes a game is really all you need to see. They just know. I didn't get a lot of their moves. I don't get a lot of their decisions. The power play was outscored 3-1 in the final 15 games of the season, and that's not the first time it happened in a streak like that during the season. Listen, I love Lindy, love Rec, love Coach Naz, everything they've done, but the message is not getting through, and they need someone else. For me personally, I like Bruce up there in Vancouver because I think he kicks some butt. And he's a hothead. I think he would have some good press conferences here and there and tell some people off, which would be make for fun for us.
But also
tell
who off? Who would he tell off though? Would he tell off?
Oh
Amanda
yeah,
Stein,
I forgot.
The only reporter of the New Jersey Devils.
The lone.
Whoa! I have
reporter.
A beat reporter who works for me. Get the hell out of here. Dan Rice works for Pucks and Pitchforks. I'm gonna smack you both.
Listen.
Are they allowed in the press conference room?
Are they? Yeah. Are they even allowed to go?
Are they allowed in there?
Dan Rice he wanted to focus more on players, so he wasn't the coach guy. But this it's a weird world with this because there's no locker room interviews. That's really kind of what makes it weird. We don't see the pictures of like the 7 people. Everybody's standing behind cameras and crap. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. The good old days where people had
yeah, right. Other than that, Bruce, why can't I say his name now?
Boudreau?
Bruce Boudreau, up there in Vancouver. I really like everything that Kevin Dineen has been doing with the Comets, and if these kids are going to come up, and it's the same bunch, man, I'm all about that within the system type of deal because they seem to be getting a lot of results down there. And you saw the Nolan Foots, you saw the Holtz at the end of the season, you saw the Ahoytuks. Man, is it finally nice to see someone hit somebody with some force and drive an opponent down. Kevin Ball coming up. Riley Walsh, again, didn't understand, brought him up for 1 game and then sat him for 2. And I get it. You can say, oh, maybe he can see from the press box. But I cannot take Ty Smith passing to the wrong team anymore because he did it again in the last game. If there's anyone that should be sitting in the press box because the game is going too fast for him, it is Ty Smith, and it wasn't Riley Walsh. I'll say that. So I get all that, but I would have rather seen him play. These type of decisions have just irked me. So I don't know. I didn't agree with the decision to ride Dawes for so long and then pull him. There was just a lot of things I just was like, why are they doing that? And they just seemed ill-prepared a lot of times, not into the game, sleepwalking through the most of the beginning and middle parts of the season. For me, I think this team needs a new voice. And maybe Lindy does stay on, a la like the Terry Collins of the Mets, old TC there, working in the front office and in player development and stuff like that. Maybe there is a place for him. But I think I can't take the home run pass. I can't have the defense trying to go from goal line to blue line in every single pass. They just keep getting picked off, and it's just turnovers. It's just turnovers.
The structure was bad, but so
if you don't have Dominic
just
Hasek in there, you can't play that system. You need Dominic Hasek in goal to play that system. That's why it worked in Buffalo, because you had Hasek and Ryan Miller. You know, if you don't have that, you can't play the home run system, because you're not going to get a home run every single time. It's going to happen maybe like once or twice a game.
And this all kind of circles back to, and this kind of circles back to like what Nick was saying before. The reason why he's wearing a shirt that he's wearing right now is because he's Team Nico.
I love Nico. He's a 60-point man, just like Ric Flair, baby. Woo!
Well, in the exit interviews, it was said, Nico Hischier was asked what his thoughts of the coaching staff returning, and he just says no comment. Or says, I don't have a comment about that right now. And Jack Hughes, on the other hand, is saying, I love Lindy Ruff, and I hope he comes back. He helped me become the player that I am this year.
Yeah.
So you have two of your main stars on this team, two of your driving forces, basically wanting something different. Now, this is not a drama thing. This is not. I don't think it's going to end in like if Lindy stays.
Did Nico specifically say, I want a different coach?
Exactly. I don't think he did, but
he said no comment, and I think maybe he's got frustrations. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, Jack is going to be. Yeah, because Lindy helped. He did a lot for these kids. He did do a lot for these kids. Of course, he's like their grandpa. They're gonna stick up for him. I got it.
And also,
he gave me a $5 bill.
Yeah, have you seen his hair? He's lost so much hair this year. Like his hair used to kind of be on the left side. Now it's like more over to the right, like his part and everything. Like it's just completely disappearing. I get it.
Are you saying that being the New Jersey Devils coach is kind of like being the president? Like you come in one age, you come out 25 years old.
Drastically. Yes.
Exactly.
It's like Interstellar, where time doesn't matter. You lose like years and stuff like that. In the black holes.
I will say there's a stark difference between how Lindy Ruff coaches and how John Hines coaches, and it's clear how John Hines coach did not work with Jack Hughes. There's just constant frustration, constant benchings, constant taken out of the lineup and blame for so much stuff as an 18-year-old. So I think that also has to do with it, is he's seen the other side, but only like a spectrum of it. While Nico had 3 years with Hines, I believe. So he kind of got to see everything with Hines. He got to see the good with the Hines and the bad with the Hines. All Jack Hughes saw was this desperate coach begging to keep his job, basically. And to do that, he changed the lineup the second it stopped working, which was every night. So he literally had 40 different lineups in a month.
Oh, man.
He used a blender more than a tiki hut.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And it's funny because people that say, well, look at what Hines is doing in Nashville. It's like, yeah, Nashville was already a really pretty good team before he got there. So he came in there and he did change a few things, and people in Nashville didn't like him right away. It took a little time for him to get his footing. But this year they're playing pretty well. But that's what happens when you have, an already in place pretty good team with good goaltending and all these other factors that help John Hines into the situation that he's in. But
look at Boudreau though up in Vancouver, who came in there and really helped turn that team around for the positive though. And I believe there is another Hughes brother up there that, maybe can give him a little good, a little good word on the side there to old Jackie boy and Luke, hey, I don't know.
He's not a bad guy.
I think this team definitely needs someone who's going to keep them. I don't think they need the Torts level, but they need someone who's going to keep them in check. They're a young team. I don't think they need the Torts. I think that would be too much for Jack. I don't think he would like the old Torts situation. I don't know many players do. Some do and some don't, but I can't see it working well for Mr. Hughes.
One other name to watch out for, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it's Lou, so you never know, is Barry Trotz. That's absolutely a name that I would put at the top of the list. I don't think it's going to happen, so I don't think it's even worth the conversation, but I do want to just throw it out there that if there's some surprises and firings.
Claude Julien. First place, 95 points. You're fired, Julian. Get out of here.
Yeah. And then I'll pack my lunch and watch you leave the room.
Yeah, and then you could go to Boston and win like 3 cups with them or 2 cups with them.
They only got 1 cup. Boston only got one. These great Boston teams. They only got 2011. These great Boston teams only won 1 cup. That's wild, right?
That is.
There's a lot of teams like that.
Chicago, yeah. Pittsburgh has 2 now,
There was a lot of teams like that.
Pittsburgh has 3.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh won the back-to-back, and they won the one.
They had the back-to-back, and then they had the early. Right. Man, you forget some about that.
Tampa Bay. You know, it's funny though, like with all the exit interviews and like a lot of the things that are going down. This team, if you were a player on this team and you've been there for a while, it's got to be like Damon Severson, right? And you're like, well, here we are again at the same point again. Like, at what point do you, as a a professional athlete, get to the point where you're just frustrated and just want to be out of there? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't even blame them if they feel that way, because it's like, what are they going to do to fix the situation? You know, there's reports that Mackenzie Blackwood was changing his agent, that he was pissed off at the Devils for the way they handled his injury and this, that, and the other thing. And if he's for sure gone, and this is something I'm glad you're here tonight, Nick, because this is something that we've all talked about 1.5 million times of what could they do next year in the goaltending situation. And who do you think that they would be if they're not going to bring back Mackenzie Blackwood, or if they move on from Mackenzie Blackwood? Because I don't know, he's got at least another year, I think, on his contract. But if they end up trading him or moving him, who do you think they should target? Because you got Bernier's, which has another year, but if you eat that contract, I think it's not a terrible hit, and they have the room to do it.
Can he even play? We got to see if he can even play next year.
He says he wants to be ready by training camp, but I mean, I want to be a millionaire. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not. I can't say that he's a sure thing. You know.
Yeah, I actually am going into next season assuming he's the opposite. I think he's a sure thing to not play. Whether that's because the Devils are going to buy him out or because he's going to go in LTIR. I don't think the Devils are going to. They can't afford to take a chance on him. You know what I mean? No. So I think that's the case, is that you can't afford to have Bernier on the roster if you're the New Jersey Devils. I think the Devils are going to do something weird with Arizona, where they send Bernier and Johnson and give them like a 3rd round pick to take on those contracts or something. Maybe more. I don't think it's gonna be much more. Maybe they give him like a weird prospect, like a middle prospect. Like maybe they get a Hoytuk or something, like somebody who's like or
kill Scotty.
Yeah, don't send him out. Send someone else.
Maybe Mike you give him like a 3rd round pick and like Vukovic or something, like somebody who has little value but some value. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Anyway. Point being is that I don't think that there's any chance that Bernier is on the roster, which is sad because I really liked the signing at the time. It's just been unlucky. I liked the Crawford signing too, and then he was just up and retired. So, you know, it is what it is. The names I'm looking
at. Sam Wu is suggesting to send Severson. As we all know, Sam Wu's best friend is Damon Severson, so he just, wants to send that out there. Yeah. Leave him exposed in the expansion draft. According to Sam Wood.
Anyway, I'm not even going to give a response to that. But anyway, he did have a career-high 16 power play points this year, which is unfortunate because it just shows how bad the power play was that we needed that much Damon Severson on it. But, yeah, the goalies that I'm looking at, here's the thing. Is that I need to go big game hunting. I need to stop with this playing around and hoping that Mackenzie Blackwood is the starter. I don't care anymore. Go for Carey Price. Go for Connor Hellebuyck. You either spend big on the contract for Carey Price and don't send a lot to Montreal to get him, or you spend a ton to get Connor Hellebuyck from Winnipeg and just give them an offer that they can't freaking refuse. Maybe you put in Holtz. I didn't like what I saw from Holtz on his. This is the second go around where he went up to the NHL and it just looked like it was too fast for him. I'm not giving up on Holtz. I still think he's a top 6 winger to start next year, but it's much less of a guarantee than it was 6 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago even. So if you tell me that I give you Holtz, you give me Hellebuyck, we call it a day, I'm thinking about it real hard, especially with another top 5 pick coming. And I could get a winger in this draft, a real good winger that's going to be with Jack Hughes for a long time. Oh, man, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it hard because Hellebuyck fixes it. And there's not much.
What about old Georgie? What about old Georgie from the Rangers?
He's another risk. Look what happened to Cam Talbot when he went to Edmonton. You know, you get these backup goalies who you turn them into starters, and they're never as good the first year. And sometimes they turn around. Like Talbot's had a decent career, but has he ever been on a cup contender? Has he ever been the guy that's like going to take someone somewhere? Not really. And he's had good teams around him. You know, and you think about other backups who have gone to try to be starters elsewhere, and it doesn't work out.
Corey Schneider.
Almost never. I mean, well, Corey Schneider stole the job from the best goaltender in the league in the playoffs, though. He was, he was a backup, sure, but like, that I feel like there was a little bit of a different situation. Georgiev never, in his right mind, anybody was ever saying play Georgiev over Shesterkin. Even when Shesterkin struggled, nobody was even considering that. I look at in the league. I think you have to make a trade, and then maybe you take a chance on a backup if you want to trade out Blackwood. But I'd rather bring in a Carey Price or a Hellebuyck and play him with Blackwood. And then, maybe if you lighten the load for both of them, you can actually get the most out of everybody.
Carey Price's age doesn't scare you, though?
He had an entire year off. Name anybody in this league who's gotten an entire year off, not because of injury, but just to kind of like get his head together, get his body right. Like, think about that. Like, he's probably got a 28-year-old body now because he hasn't been on the road. He hasn't been getting hit by pucks for an entire year. I was worried about him last year. Like, coming off that cup run, it was like, I know he's great in the playoffs, but I just think he's going to break down. Now that he's had this year off, if you could get Montreal to just eat a lot of that contract, because his buyout is terrible. His buyout is awful. So Montreal has no incentive to buy him out. So if you can say, well, you're going to eat it with the buyout anyway, you might as well get an asset for it and eat half of it. I'll take a $5 million Carey Price. Or if you get another team involved, a $3 million Carey Price or something in that range. Or even a $5 million Carey Price. I'm cool with spending $8 million on the goaltender position and going into the season with Carey Price and Mackenzie Blackwood. And then you got to get somebody who's a Scott Wedgwood type. I think Scott Wedgwood's going to get a legit backup role, so he's not going to be the guy. But a guy who's, he's better than the AHL. He's not good enough for the NHL, but you're just going to have to eat a roster spot on a third goalie because you just can't take the chance this year. You just can't. Don't put him on waivers. Don't like you did it right this year, and your gut was telling you to get that third goalie, and you brought Scott Wedgwood back, and then you put him on waivers, and then he dominates for 2 teams to the point of I think it was 910 save percentage in Arizona and like a 916 in Dallas, and he really helped Dallas get to the playoffs. Like, think about what that would have meant for this team this year to be able to lean on Scott Wedgwood. You wouldn't have had to lean on Mackenzie Blackwood when his heel hurt. You wouldn't have had to lean on Nico Dawes when he was a rookie and couldn't handle it. You wouldn't have had to lean on John Gillies when he was still John Gillies. Can I just say, the day we traded for John Gillies was the day the season was over. That's when you realize, like, oh, we're just trying to survive.
Yeah, but didn't Fitzgerald say that when he traded for Hammond that he was getting the goaltender that the Devils deserve? Out of his own mouth. I think that's not the exact quote, but it's damn close to what he said. And maybe they did deserve it.
Let me ask Scotty this. Because maybe this equates. So Do you get ratings for your show?
Yes and no, sort of.
Okay.
It's a different system. Yeah.
Yeah, but you get there's some kind of like comparison tool. I would right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in my day job working for television news, I also get a comparison tool. It's much different than sports, but we get to see where we are. I've worked for the top, I worked for the bottom, I've worked for the in between. And there's different motivations at each, but there are still motivations. You still don't want to be handed just because if you're at the bottom, you don't want to just be put in a position where there's nothing. It's still a job. It's still something you have to be motivated for. And it's still something that you have to motivate other people to come see. They're still trying to make money. They're still, you still want to see a winning product as a coming in fan. So I liked the idea of the Hammond trade. I just hated that they did it with Hammond. He was injured, first of all, and he's just been a career AHL guy. I wish they got more of a Louis Domingue type, somebody who was healthy, but maybe he was a career AHLer and tweener NHLer. Like if we had Louis Domingue, because I think Louis Domingue made another NHL appearance this year, then you're in better shape. But the Devils, the in-season goaltender decisions were some of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, Fitzy has been cursed, I think, with the old goaltenders and bringing them in. From Crawford to Bernier to everything that's been going on with Blackwood, mishandling the injury earlier, all the other controversy surrounding it, the release of Wedgwood. He has just had no luck when it comes to goaltending, that's for sure. But Nico Dawes does look like someone who has somewhat promise to him. Have to see more of Akira Schmid and see what other prospects the Devils can come up with goaltending. But that is definitely one of the absolute. I mean, I think it's got to be the top weakness of the franchise is goaltending. From just the terribleness, the inconsistency, the non-momentum building saves. It just for a while, it just seemed like every opportunity was going to go in for the opposing team. And I don't know, sometimes it seemed like they were going out there already defeated at times. So goaltending, I think, is huge. I would love to see Hellebuck on the Devils. I know I would joke around with that during the season all the time, but I think it's a very plausible trade. I think it can be done. Maybe Mackenzie Blackwood is a part of that deal that gets him shipped out. You never know. But I definitely think goaltending needs to be addressed. That coaching staff needs to be addressed. And I don't know if Fitzy's going to, his ties with Lindy, I don't know, may buy him another season. But if that team starts out struggling, there's just going to be immediate calls for both of them. Fitzy's going to be putting himself on the line, I feel like, if he keeps Lindy and they struggle, it's going to be calls for both of them to go next season.
And you got to look at the situation like who – I know Jack is very vocal about how much he likes Lindy Ruff and the staff there, but how many of the guys are on the opposite side of the fence? If Nico Hischier, your captain of the team, is actually on the other side of that fence and saying, like, I'm not happy with what the direction of this team is going and his, the coaching, that's a big issue. That's a big issue. You cannot have a locker room divided. You can't have players not wanting to play for somebody because that shows. And that's something like, listen, I don't care who you are. If you are in a situation where you're not happy, your performance is not going to be good. At any job, at anything that you do, if you don't like your boss and you don't like coming to work and you're miserable, you're not putting in 100% effort. And I'm not saying that obviously Nico had, his best year yet. So I'm not saying that he was doing that, but at the same time, you get to a point where you can only do so much to try to get through a day. And if you're not happy, you're not happy. And that's the end of it. And the other thing that's looming over this team right now, and I know he's an RFA, so there's time, is Jesper Bratt. I don't understand what's taking so long to get him a new contract or what's taking so long to get him an extension. But you would think that would be a priority of Fitzgerald's as well, because the kid he had his best season too. And at this point, you're getting him for a steal at where he was drafted. He's developing well. He's a top 6 forward for sure on his team. And what happened?
I was just a divided locker room cannot stand. It just sounds like Seinfeld with George. I was just talking about independent George. If relationship devils comes through that locker room door, they will kill independent devils.
Yeah. The C was angry that day, my friend, like an old man returning soup at the deli.
I was watching the Mets game before, and they always make Seinfeld references with Keith Hernandez and everything, so I apologize.
Yeah.
But Matt Junio just commented, a divided locker room cannot stand, and it made me think of George. So good on you there, Matt.
But it's true. It's true though.
It is.
But yeah, that's so.
I wouldn't read too much into like divided. I don't think we have a divided locker room yet or anything like that. I wouldn't put too much into it.
No, you see Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes hang it all the time. Like, you can have healthy disagreements with people.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And like I said, I don't think it's to the point, but if they're unhappy with it and they roll it back next season and they're like, dude, this is not good. This is not good. We're gonna end up having this same conversation again next year that we've had for the last couple of years. Oh, I wonder who the Devils are gonna pick. I wonder what they're gonna. And here's another thing, Nick. Would you take this top pick, considering, let's say they don't win the lottery and it ends up being what, 5th overall or somewhere around there, 5th, 6th, something like that?
6th, yeah, depending on if someone jumps us or not.
Would you think about possibly trading that pick to get either an NHL ready prospect that like a proven commodity, or somebody that's an established veteran, or may I be crazy and say a goaltender? Would you be willing to move the pick?
Goaltender.
Yeah, would you be willing to move that pick? It has to be
a goaltender. But I think the only one I'm even considering it for is Hellebuck. And I'm not adding anything else. And I don't think Winnipeg's going to do it just for a pick.
We'll throw you Pavel Zacha.
Yeah, I mean, you can have, something. But not even Zacha, because Zacha could apparently get us Besser if we had a little bit more. So, like,
yeah, right.
But I'm looking at like value wise. If I can dangle the pick at Florida and be like, you want to give us Spencer Knight, or you want to dangle it to Minnesota for are they the ones who took the Russian? No, they took no. Who took the Russian?
No.
Nashville took the Russian.
Nashville.
So if you want to dangle it to Nashville, say, hey, David Boyle, you want to give us I can't remember his name. You know who I'm talking about, the Russian from a couple years
exactly.
ago that got picked.
Begins with a V
overall.
Yeah.
And then there's the 2 from last year. Wallstead. I think Wallstead is who went to Minnesota. But if you want to go after Wallstead, but you also got to remember that these are guys who got taken in the 11 to 25 or 11 to 20 range, and then you're going to give them a 5th pick when they haven't proven to be NHL players yet.
Yeah,
so
I want like a proven commodity. To me, that's what I would do.
I just don't think. I don't think if you're the Devils, you don't want to pick here again. So you might as well take advantage of this one last time. Take Simon Nemec or Logan Cooley or, there's a couple other really good guys at the top of this draft that could be superstars. This draft is weird because Shane Wright not falling apart, but not looking like a number 1 overall pick at the end of the season has made it look like this could be like the 2017 draft where you can have Miro Heiskanen, Kyle McCarr, Elias Pettersson, and a couple others a little further down the list of the number away from number 1 overall.
Under the radar. Yeah.
You can have those guys where you get the best guy in the draft later. Little later, not much later. Like, we're not talking like Barzal or anything like 15 overall, but I'm talking about like 4 or 5, like Nemec and And Cooley's somebody who's just a lot of people are really in love with him, and I had to see their names. There's so many different names I've been playing around with the draft, but just look at this draft and the guys from 1 to 9, any of them could be the best player in the draft in 5 years. So I don't know if I want to trade that pick yet. If you're really trusting your scouts, and I think you really have to if you're the Devils, think about it. If they get Nemec, who's a right-handed shot defenseman, and he looks like he could be a superstar right-handed shot defenseman, and you pair him with Luke Hughes for the next 15 years, and on top of that you get, let's say Ty Smith is something in between what he was this year and last year, and that's his career. I'm okay with that as a second-line guy, like a 35-point. Basically you're getting Severson. And if you're keeping Severson on the second line.
Severson 2.0.
And then if you keep Severson, if you let's say you give Severson a 5-year contract, he's probably going to get paid too much. But then, for years you got Severson, Hamilton, Smith, and one of Graves and Siegenthaler, because I would say at that point you'd re-sign one of them to be on the left side. And then you have Luke Hughes and Nemec, these two superstar young guys on the bottom pair, working their way up, and maybe the next year they're the second pair, and the year after that they're the first pair, while Dougie Hamilton kind of rides out the end of his career. I think to have a right side like Nemec on there is so important for when Hamilton and Severson get older, that he could kind of take those spots. We saw what happened when Subban had to be our number one right-handed defenseman because he was right-handed. You just didn't have anyone there. And right now the best right-handed shot the Devils have in the system is Riley Walsh, and Riley Walsh is fine. Can he be an NHL player? Yeah, but he's not going to be Adam Fox where he develops into a superstar. So that opportunity shouldn't come more often than it has so far with where they are, and hopefully with a coaching staff that can get them to the next level. That's kind of where I'm at. I understand the premise of trading the pick, but I don't think you're going to get what you think you're going to get out of the pick, so I think you should just take the pick.
It's a solid point too, but you brought up maybe taking a swing at Spencer Knight, and I think Bobrovsky still playing at the top of his game makes that an actual realistic sort of option. I know Florida would probably say no, because obviously how long can Bob do what he's doing right now? Maybe another year, maybe another 2. So you keep developing Spencer Knight behind him and getting him more games throughout the season, next year and the year after. And then when Bobrovsky, starts to tail off, you could be like, all right, boom. Then you could put Spencer Knight right in. So in their mind, that's probably where they're at. And obviously that makes it where they more than likely will never, part with him unless they have some kind of crazy backup plan behind that. But, I think you're right in 100% about keeping the pick and doing something smart with it, or at least being in the draft. Let's say they're at 6, right? And they're in the draft room, and the draft isn't falling the way they want to fall. Let's say Nemec goes 2, 3, or somebody that they highly covet goes 2 or 3. And now they're looking at really good prospects, but they're also looking at we have a lot of prospects that we've been developing. Is it time that we take this pick and turn it into something that's already proven? So giving them the 6th pick might not be a bad thing, because maybe that gives them other avenues to kind of travel down, or it gives them a different way of approaching the draft than having hey, you have the number 1, number 2. Because then you're like, well, we have to pretty much use it, or if we're not going to use it, you better get something top of the line in return.
Because then you're talking about a franchise-changing trade that you have to make in 10 minutes because of how the draft works out. I think, and I guess you could kind of set the framework if we lose Nemec, then we can make this trade beforehand with the team. But I think I'm just keeping the pick. I do. Yeah. I think I'm just keeping the pick. I've liked these guys for a while in this draft. I know next year's draft is the draft with the game changers, the superstars, but there's still some very good prospects in this draft. There's still some real good players in this draft. That's also what scares me is we're wasting this window while these prospects are about to go to Buffalo and Arizona and San Jose, probably. Like, these prospects that are about to go to these bad teams that they're accumulating are about to get real good at a time where we want to be in the cup window. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And did we just go about this all the wrong way? Did we not think 5 years in advance and take it too much year by year? Because I think that we're in a spot where we could be cooked. We could have wasted it because we should be probably 2 years ahead of where we are.
Damn Taylor Hall. He ruined it all.
I mean, to be honest, think about it. If he just, do you think that changes anything? If we were allowed to re-sign Taylor Hall after that MVP year, and he signs for 7 years, $9 million per, do you think he's a different kind of player? Because he just seemed like a different kind of player the next year. After he won the MVP, and then he hurt his knee, and then he was day-to-day for 7 months. And then he came back, and he was very tentative. He was very tentative before that trade to Colorado. He just seemed like he was like he seemed like Fred Flintstone tippy-toeing down the bowling alley. Like he was just like, oh, I'm not going to shoot here. You shoot it. Yeah, what do you have, like 28 assists before he got traded and like 4 goals? Like he just didn't make sense. I think everything changes if he's locked in. Taylor Hall, honestly, the way he played cost him probably about $60 million because he just he had to sign that 1-year deal in Buffalo for $8 million. They got traded to Boston, and he had to sign a Boston deal. And good for him. He seems like he's happy. But have you even heard about Taylor Hall this year? If I didn't say he was on Boston right now, did you even remember?
Only when
he
he's
was
scoring
on
against
Boston?
us.
No, I know he's on Boston because, the dislike of Boston and then seeing him on Boston makes it even worse. But yeah, I mean, Taylor Hall, Scotty, you brought up, I think, this point one day where you're like, once Taylor Hall was in a team, that's where everything got shifted backwards.
Yeah. Because now you have a player that wants to be in the playoffs, and he's your star player. So you're going to have to dictate to that. That's where we got out of line.
Yep.
Now, before we go, I do want to point out I'm in love with Dougie Hamilton's hat. I don't want to get into a Taylor Hall pork roll discourse, but I am in love with his hat, and I found his hat. I'm going to buy his hat.
Yes.
All right.
Where'd you find it? Wait, can you tell the people where? Can you tell the people where you found it though?
It's called True Jersey, I believe. Hold on, TrueJersey.com. They got a bunch of New Jersey ilk memorabilia and T-shirts and hats. Lots of pork roll hats or Taylor ham hats.
Yeah, don't say that around Sam Wu. He'll get upset. Very, very upset.
It's a very
you don't
Jersey
want to
theme.
upset Sam Wu.
I'm probably going to spend too much money here. I'm probably going to buy like a girl's T-shirt so my Pennsylvania wife has to wear one.
There you go.
She would wear the DeVito for Governor shirt.
There you go.
I like that.
Old Frank Reynolds.
It's a sticker. I'm gonna get that. That's what. Now I'm doomed. I'm gonna spend like $100 on this website.
Yeah, they got stickers. They got. Oh yeah, they got it all. Oh yeah, that Taylor.
Saint Danny DeVito
sticker.
Final thoughts.
Final. Oh, geez. All right, I'll go, Sam. Geez, I know you're at a hotel and you're hanging out and living the life of luxury.
I know you guys were the ones saying, "Hey, let's wrap it up," and I'm like, "All right, let's wrap it up." I passed on the message to Nick.
All right. Well, I'll start then. My final thought is I'm upset about how the season went. Although there was a lot of really nice highlights. Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt all having career years. There's a lot of good things going forward with this team. We've said it before. The pieces are there. It just needs to be orchestrated the right way, and it needs to be finished. We need to finish. Right now we have an unfinished bar top. Get the lacquer out. Get the rag out. Wipe it down. Make it look nice, and get everybody settled up at the bar and have a good time. Next year, I expect much better. This year, see you later.
We need a Nicky to get that done as GM.
Yeah, we do. We do.
And then
I'll just say that I'll
Scotty,
just say that, you know, goaltending is the obvious key there, but of the ups and downs of this season, and there were a lot of downs, there were only a few ups. You know, we did have some fun, but I am the one thing that I am pleased with is the core four there seem to be all having, you know, better years and progressing, with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, and Igor Sharangovich also having career years. So those four, I think, have kind of solidified themselves. Everyone else, we'll see. We'll see. But those four are getting better, I think, is the biggest takeaway from this season.
I just don't want to be
Nick?
sad anymore. Make me not sad anymore. Make it not like it should be appointment television, not a like. I don't want to have to make appointments for the therapist on the day after Devils games just to get through the season. So yeah,
we did have some therapy sessions.
Yeah,
on Devils After Dark.
You know, the one thing I said is I wanted them to at least be exciting this year, and they just weren't. Like half the season was boring, the other half was just a disappointing mess. But quick plug, pucksandpitchforks.com. Right now I have an article up on the 5 players that you're not going to see back next season. That's a guarantee. And then tomorrow I'm going to kind of go through the 5 things we learned today from media availability. So check that out, pucksandpitchforks.com. Go there now, go there tomorrow, and go there every day because we have new content every single day.
One thing I want to say, there is no off season with the Let's Go Devils podcast. Thank you all those watching, dropping the podcast at midnight. Thank you guys. Thank you, Nick, Scotty, Beer Baron. Until next time, let's go Devils.